Guys, so in this video I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in July. Now, July was not the best reading month for me, but it was better than June because in June I did not read any books. And July was also not the best reading month. I just ended up reading 3 books, but they were really good books because I rated them 4 stars and 5 stars. So I'm really excited to talk about them and tell you my views on them. And this is my first time making this video, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to properly talk about them, but I still want to do this because I just think it's so much fun. So the first book that I read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This is by Robert Kiyosaki. Now in this book, the author, firstly, it's a non-fiction book, and the author has his own dad who is the poor dad, and then his friend has another dad who is the rich dad, and he is just explaining the behavior of both the dads. So how his rich dad behaves with money and all his finances, and the same way for his poor dad. Now, one thing about this book is that you do need to take it with a grain of salt because there are a lot of things he says where you would have to think for yourself. He did say that his rich dad was not educated, but his poor dad was very educated, and that's what I did not like the best about this book because it might be a personal thing, but I'm in the field of education. And that is why I just felt that, you know, you don't need to say that you don't need to be educated in order to be rich. I mean, I just don't like the message of putting education in a bad light. Obviously, education is necessary and it all depends on how you use education. But at the same time, a lot of the things he talks about in this book are practical things, so you can use them in your daily life. He talks about assets and liabilities, and that's something really important that I think everyone should know. So I rated this book 4 stars out of 5. I cut down 1 star just because of the whole education thing, but other than that, I really love this book. The second book that I read is Arrowfire by Sarah J. Maas, and this is the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series. I don't know if you know about the Throne of Glass series, but it's basically about this assassin who becomes, like, she participates in this tournament to become the king's champion. The series is all about her life, and I just love the world that they've introduced in Throne of Glass, and there's just magic and everything. And specifically in this book, Selena, who is the main protagonist of the story, she was going through some really tough times, and I could resonate with her so much because June was not the best month for me, and even July. So when I was reading this in July, I just it felt so good, and like her biggest breakdown led to an amazing breakthrough, and it was just so good to see. It was a bit slow at the beginning, but then later on it was so good. I just could not put it down. I remember like staying up at night to finish it, and it was just magical. I rated this 5 stars if you did not already guess. So yeah, that was my second read. And the third read that I finished in July is You by Caroline Kepnes. I don't know if it's Caroline or Caroline. I think it's Caroline. So this, if you have not already seen, it's a Netflix series on Netflix. And this is about this guy who gets obsessed with this girl who he visits in a bookstore. He works in the bookstore, and it's just about how obsessed and crazy it is. And in this book, he's always talking about this girl as you, so he keeps saying that you walk into the bookstore, and it was fun to read the book after watching the series because I had loved the series. I watched the entire series, and then this book was a gift from my boyfriend to me on my birthday, and it was just so interesting to read this book after watching the series. And there were slight differences, but I would go so far to say that the series was as good as the book, if not more. The only issue that I faced was that I was a bit slow with this book because I had already watched the series and I knew most of the plot, but at the same time I still loved it so much, and I know that if I would have not watched the series and read this book, I would have finished this so much faster, because it is definitely a page turner. But for me, it just went a bit slow because I had already watched the series. And the things Joe says, it makes you question whether, you know, he's the one who's a psycho, or maybe the world is a psycho. I mean, I don't know. Like, for example, this specific line about Beck, who is the girl in the book, he says, "You're so much more invested in being a writer, accepting compliments and drinking whiskey than you are at writing." And he just sees through so many things that you normally wouldn't see through, and his way of thinking is just so different. But at the same time, he's a stalker, so you have to keep that in mind. Don't get smitten like I probably did. And if you did not guess, I also rated this 5 stars. So I would have rated it 4.5 stars, but then I realized that I was just going to rate it lower because I've watched the series and I wasn't as curious while reading. But then I realized it's actually a 5-star read, so I gave it what it deserved. And yep, these are all of the books that I read in July, and I had such a good time reading them. I do hope to read more in August. I don't know what's going to happen, we'll see. And I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do like such videos based on books, do let me know, because I love to make some more. Also subscribe for more videos from me, and make sure to click the bell button to be notified, and I'll see you soon with a new video. Bye!